Hey guys! Today I've got one of my favorite videos to film. I'm going to be sharing with you all of the products that I have hit pan on in my collection, at least since the last time I filmed one of these videos, which it has been a while, so I have a lot of new pans to share with you. And I also wanted to calculate my updated eyeshadow pan percentage, so the percentage of eyeshadows in my collection that I've hit pan on, because it has changed since the last time I updated that. Also wanted to take a moment to invite you to become a supporter of my channel, either on Patreon or my YouTube channel membership. They're both pretty much the same. I upload the same content to both. It's just whichever platform you prefer. And I just have a pay what you want model for both platforms, so you can become a member starting at $2 a month. You can also pledge more than that if you want to, but everyone gets access to the same perks regardless of how much they pledge. And every month you get a bonus video from me, as well as early access to some of my videos. And actually today's makeup look is the one that I did in my most recent membership Get Ready With Me, so if you're interested in that, you'll also get access to all of my previous videos that I've done on there throughout the past year, so you'll get tons of extra content as well. So if you're interested, they will both be linked below, and I would love to have you over there. Thank you as always to my existing patrons and members. You guys are the best. Let's go ahead and get into the products I've hit pan on. So let's start with one that I actually just recently hit pan on. This is the Sigma Color Correcting Duo in light to medium. And I have now hit pan in both sides of this, and I have only had this duo since January. I have been using it just about every single day, so that's part of why I hit pan so quickly, but also I have discovered that this does not have very much product in it compared to most color correctors. Between both sides, it contains 0.05 ounces, which is much smaller than the average color corrector, so really not a great value, I've learned, but I love this corrector so much. This is actually the first color corrector I've found that I like enough to actually use, and I feel like it makes a big difference on my under eyes. It just has the perfect texture. I think that's what I like about it so much. It's not too dry, but it's also not too thick and creamy and emollient. It's just right in between. It has a very, kind of thin consistency, but it still packs a punch. You really just have to barely tap your finger in there and you get a lot of pigment with just a small amount of product. And I'll usually do some combination of both shades. The two shades are pretty similar. This one is just a little bit lighter and more of like a pinky peach, and then this one is a little bit deeper, kind of like a salmon toned peach. But I usually will just mix both sides together, and I'll either put it underneath my concealer or I'll tap it on top. And whichever way I use it, I feel like it always not only just cancels out the darkness of my under eyes, but it also just brightens my under eyes without making them look lighter than the rest of my skin tone. So this product has really gotten me into color correctors, and now I almost can't imagine doing my makeup routine without this or without a similar product. So I will be looking for a more affordable alternative. A lot of you have recommended to me the Makeup Revolution under eye corrector, so that might be the next one I try. I might get it soon just so I can compare it to this one. Sometimes I will buy an alternative to something, but I've already used up the previous product, so I can't really compare them side by side. So that's probably the one I'll get next, but let me know if you have any other good, affordable color corrector recommendations. Okay, this one I've actually already used up, but I hit pan on it after my last products I've hit pan on video, which was last spring, and I just wanted to celebrate one more time that I have hit pan and finished up the Kosas Cloud Set Powder. I had the shade Airy in this. It took me a long time to finally hit pan, and this is what the pan looks like. I wasn't sure what to expect. I've actually never panned a baked product before, I don't think. I think this is the first baked product I've ever hit even so much as hit pan on. And the pan of this is actually, I think it's like a ceramic or like a terracotta material, because it's it's not metal. But once I hit pan on this and flattened it out, it went very quick from there, because as you can see, the pan itself really sits just like half a millimeter below this outer rim, so it's really kind of level with the top there. So most of the product was in that dome shape, but I used this almost every single day, and I always used a pretty generous amount, and it still took me a good several months of consistent use to use this up. I definitely wouldn't buy this again because I just think there's so many great affordable powders out there. And I actually, to replace it, I ended up getting the LYS Triple Fix Setting Powder, which I've only used once so far, but it seems promising so far. I've only used it once, but I can already tell it's definitely at least as good as the Kosas powder, if not better. Yeah, I just really didn't understand the hype with this product. I feel like it was just like every other powder I've tried, nothing too spectacular. It's very expensive for what it is. I enjoyed it while I had it, but I definitely will not repurchase that. This one I hit pan on a while ago. This is the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Bronzer in the shade Fair. This was pretty quick to hit pan on as well, which was surprising to me because it has a ton of product in it. It comes with 16 grams or 0.56 ounces, so there's a lot of product in there, but I think because it's such a wide pan, the powder is so spread out in there that the pan itself is actually pretty shallow, so it didn't take me long to hit pan on this. Granted, I have used it a ton. It is one of my favorite bronzers of all time, but I love that it's refillable. I think that I will eventually use this up all the way, and when I do, just because I know it is refillable, that makes me so much more likely to want to purchase a new refill. And I love that you can keep this gorgeous outer packaging and just keep using it. You just pop the pan out of there and pop a new one in. And of course the refill is cheaper than if you were to buy the full thing with the packaging included. So I just love that about this product. And it's also just one of those bronzers that you can't mess up. It is the perfect tone for me. You can see it's really just barely deeper than my skin tone, which is what I prefer. I feel like if I go too deep with a bronzer, it's just too hard to work with and it just starts to look muddy very, very quickly. So I like to be able to just swirl my brush in there and go to town and not have to worry about looking orange or looking like I just put way too much bronzer on. So love this so much, and I love seeing that enormous pan. I can't wait to expand it even more. Okay, a product that, this isn't really a makeup product, but I would still consider this a pan. This is the Paula's Choice Lip and Body Treatment Balm. I just use it on my lips. And look at that gigantic pan that I have in there. This is my favorite lip balm of all time. I wish they would make a version of this in a stick, like a chapstick type of format. It's funny because Paula's Choice is very against jar packaging. Like, they've always been, like, they don't put any of their other skincare in jar packaging, but this product is the exception, apparently. Apparently jar packaging is fine in this instance only. I don't mind jar packaging at all myself, I just think it's kind of ironic. But it's a very simple lip balm. It has no scent, it has no flavor at all. Not very aesthetic either, like it's just very plain looking. But this works wonders for my lips. I wear this every single night to bed, and if my lips are dry or chapped or irritated at all, this will just fix them overnight. Like the next morning I wake up, my lips are so soft. This is still on my lips by the time I wake up. Like, it stays on, it's nice and thick. And I also feel like my lips just look really like plump, like extra plump when I wake up with this. So ever since I tried this lip balm, other lip balms just don't do the job as well. I know Paula's Choice, people kind of think of Paula's Choice as an expensive brand, but their price is really, like, some of their products are really expensive, but some of their products, if you calculate the cost per ounce, the value is actually really great, and most of the time you can get like 20% off their products. They're usually having a sale, and if they're not having a sale, they probably will like next week. So just wait for a sale. This is $15 at full price, but normally I get it for like $12, and it lasts me so long because it comes with just so much product. So if you're looking for a good lip balm, look no further. This is so good. Ooh, okay, this is kind of a funny one, but I recently hit pan in my cream Franken blush. So I mixed two different products together to make this. The last little bits of my CoverGirl lipstick in Honeyed Bloom, I had used it up all the way, but there, you know, how there's always still some lipstick down in the tube, so I dug that out. I never like to use that on my lips because you have to get a lip brush, or it's just too much work, but I loved that lipstick as a cream blush anyway, so I wanted to use that last little bit, but I also mixed in some of my Oma Beauty cream highlighter stick. I just sliced some of that off, mixed it all together, and that made this really fun, glowy cream blush. So that's what that looks like. It's beautiful. I've been wearing it a lot. Oh, and funnily enough, I realized that this shade is actually really similar to one of my other favorite cream blushes, the e.l.f. Luminous Putty Blush in Maui. I'll go ahead and swatch them next to each other so you can see. There's the e.l.f. blush in Maui, and there's the Franken blush. You can see the Franken blush is just a little bit warmer, and the shimmer in the e.l.f. one is more golden, whereas the one in the CoverGirl one is a little bit more like pinky toned, so they're definitely a little bit different, but I just thought it was funny that it ended up so similar to a blush I already had. But yeah, obviously there wasn't a lot of product in here to begin with, but I'm still really happy to have hit pan on it, and I hope to use it up completely sometime soon. So next I have 6 new eyeshadow pans, which is wild to me because I just did in November, which was like 5 months ago now, a video about all the eyeshadows I've hit pan on, and since that video I've hit pan on 6 new ones, so I feel like I've been on a bit of a roll with eyeshadow panning lately. The first one I'm so happy to have finally hit pan on was my ATHR Beauty Rose Quartz palette. This is the old version, which they no longer sell, but I finally hit pan in my favorite shade in here, which is the shade Sandstone. Just looks like a really basic light beige color, but this is one of my favorite shades in my whole collection. It just makes the perfect rosy beige transition color. It works perfectly on my skin tone. It blends into my skin like nothing else. So really happy to finally have a pan in there. These are some deep pans. Like, it took me so much longer than I thought it would. I had to dip in there for the longest time, but that is a very exciting one. And that's one that I hit pan on naturally. I didn't have this in a project pan. And then same with this one. This is the Anastasia Soft Glam palette. I already had really big pan in Tempera and Glistening, but just this past, I think this past fall, I finally hit pan in the shade Rose Pink. You can see it just has a really tiny itty bitty pan in it, but a pan nonetheless. So that makes me really happy. This is this my oldest palette? Let me see. It is. This is my oldest palette. I have now had this for 5 years. April 2018 is when I bought this. This palette has been with me through a lot. And I feel like the formula is still really good. I also have the Norvina palette, which I've also had Norvina for almost as long as Soft Glam. This one I've had since August 2018, but this one I feel like the formula has started to change a little bit. It's getting to the point where I think it might be time to retire it soon, because especially with the mattes, I've noticed a lot of them they just aren't performing the way they used to. They're a little bit patchy and kind of dry. Whereas they used to blend effortlessly. So I'm not quite ready to let go of this palette yet, though. I mean, it doesn't irritate my eyes or anything. I think it's fine to keep using. But anyway, I just wanted to note that because I've had the Soft Glam one for longer, but I feel like the formula has held up longer. But then again, I've also used Norvina a lot more in that time span. So that's my new Soft Glam pan. And then since my last products I've hit pan on video, I did hit pan on a new shade in Norvina. It's the shade Volatile. I hit pan on this one right towards the end of 2022. If you remember, last year this was my Pan That palette, but last year I made a lot of progress on this. I wanted to hit pan on every shade. I obviously didn't quite hit that goal, but I still hit pan on most of them. I now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 9 pans in this palette, but Volatile is my most recent one. You can see this one took forever. I feel like I was like diligently working on this shade specifically for months on end, and it took me forever to finally hit pan on it. But I do now have a tiny pan in there. I at least would like to hit pan on the shade Incense before I retire this palette, because I know I could hit a pan on that one. Just a really easy shade, just a light brown, so I could definitely hit pan on that. I'll probably roll this into my project pan again at some point this year to try and hit pan on that one. But that's been my strategy this year. I'll just have usually just one palette or one single in my project at a time, and once I hit pan on a new shade in the palette, I'll just roll something new in, and that way it keeps things fresh so I don't get bored of the same palette. But I would like to revisit this palette in my project pan at some point this year. Also this year I hit another pan in the Profusion Mauves palette, so I now have 2 pans in here. I had already hit pan in this shade Opal last year, but this year I hit pan in the shade Kindly. I love this shade. I like to use it as a transition color. It's a really nice, like almost taupey rose shade, and I also really like it on the cheeks. So that is my second pan in here. I would love to hit pan on more shades in here this year because I have had this since 2020, so it is one of my older palettes. It's actually my 4th oldest palette, if you're keeping track. My 5th oldest palette is another one that I hit pan on this year, the ColourPop Miss Bliss palette. This one I've also had since 2020. Really have had it just about as long. Oh yeah, I've had both of these since July 2020. I keep track of when I got all my makeup, by the way, in case you're wondering how I don't just know that off the top of my head. But just last month, actually, I hit pan in the shade Palo Santo. This was another one that took so much longer than I expected to hit pan on. I've said hit pan so many times in this video, but I don't really have a synonym for it. So this is another one that took me so much longer to hit pan on than I expected, especially because it's a pretty soft shimmer. Like, it's not very hard pressed or anything, but the pan was a lot deeper than I was expecting. But yeah, I love that shade. It's a great peachy shimmer. I would also love to hit pan on these other two shades over on this column because I have pretty big dips in there, and those are very powdery mattes. Those are the mattes that have like little pieces of shimmer mixed in. That is actually, I think, the most recent shadow I hit pan on. And then I also finally hit pan on one of my single shadows this year, which is so exciting because I am always neglecting my little magnetic singles. But earlier this year, I hit pan in my little Natasha Denona single shadow. This is the shade Silk, I'm pretty sure. I think it is from their bronze palette. I just got this as a, like, point perk from Sephora a long time ago. It's the only shadow I've ever tried from Natasha Denona. I would like to actually try Natasha Denona shadows, like one of her palettes, soon. I know I'm like 1,000 years late to the party, but this also didn't take me too long to hit pan on. This is kind of reminds me of the ABH shimmer formula in just how soft it is, so it's pretty quick to hit pan on. And that is currently the only single magnetic shadow that I have hit pan on, but I would like to hit pan on some more of these, especially these two. ColourPop La Playa and Makeup Geek Grandstand. Those are two that are kind of next on my list of magnetic singles to try to pan. And these actually look really pretty together too, so maybe I'll do them at the same time. So to wrap things up, I also wanted to share my updated eyeshadow pan percentage. The last time I shared my pan percentage was in November, so 5 months ago. At that time, I had pan in 18 out of 288 eyeshadows, so my pan percentage was around 6%. So at that time, I had 18 eyeshadow pans. Now I have 24 eyeshadow pans, because I had 6 new ones, so that tracks. But I now have 493 eyeshadows. Most of those new shadows are from palettes I've received in PR this year. I've been very fortunate to receive a lot of palettes in PR this year. My pan percentage has unfortunately gone down considering how much the total number has grown, even though I've hit pan on more shadows. My pan percentage is now 4.87%, so just under 5%. So the percentage has gone down just because of how much my collection has grown this year, but I would like to keep seeing this number go up. I feel like I've been really on a roll with hitting pan in eyeshadows, and I am definitely going to be due for a palette declutter probably this summer, because the last time I did a palette declutter was last summer. So I think it's probably going to be time to pare things down a little bit because things have gotten a little overwhelming. It's been great to be able to try so many new formulas and new brands this year, but it's a lot. It's a lot more than I, as one person, can use on my eyes. So that is where we are at with my pan percentage and all the new pans that I have hit in my collection. Thank you all so much for watching today's video and hanging out. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already. Don't forget to check out the Patreon and the channel membership, where I will have a new exclusive video going up later this week. Otherwise, I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, and I will talk to you again very soon in my next video. Bye!